All right, cool. This is gonna be my audience for the day. Very cool, very awesome sauce. Awesome sauce. Awesome sauce. All right, so good afternoon, y'all. My name is Ellis Penate. I hope y'all are having a great day so far. I'd like to talk about, well, first, I want you guys to close your eyes and imagine a world where you wake up and every news outlet you consume is either controlled by the government or censored by the government. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the freedom of the press, why it's important, what it is, and I also want to compare and contrast countries that have it, that have freedom of press versus countries that have censorship towards its citizens and restricted freedoms. So let's start off with what is freedom of press and why is it important? So the freedom of the press is pretty much journalism showing the truth, showing accurate information to its citizens. So why is this important? This is not only important because it's transparent to its citizens, but it also keeps its government in check. It keeps our government in check. So like a good example of this would be in the 1970s, the New York Times released the Pentagon Papers. And what the Pentagon Papers was it showed how the U.S. felt about the Vietnam War. And it kind of showed that they were still sending troops in the Vietnam War, even though they knew it was bad. And so the New York Times released those papers to the public, and the public saw what its government was really doing. And so not only did that show transparency towards its citizens, but it also kept its government in check, revealing that the government was not being great the whole time. They were not making the right decisions. Another reason why the freedom of press is important is it's important for democracy. Democracy thrives on informed citizens. So all the information that citizens gain from the freedom of press, they can use that to the ballot box when they go vote for local elections, presidential elections, Congress elections, any elections. Democracy thrives on its citizens being informed with the truth. And so with that truth, they can make their own decisions based on how they feel about certain candidates, and they can go vote for whoever they want. And so that's why it's very important. It's very important for democratic processes and just keeping its citizens informed. So now that we've discussed what the freedom of press is and why it's important, I'd like to give examples of countries that have it versus countries that don't have it. So countries that have freedom of press versus countries that have censorship. So some good examples with countries with freedom of press would be Norway. Norway is ranked one of the strongest countries to protect its freedom of press. And they also are considered one of the strongest democracies because they have not only accountable parliament, but they also have free to dissolve parliament, which means that their legislation can disappear if the citizens do not like it. And that shows a good transparency, but it also keeps their democracy thriving. Another good example would be Sweden. Sweden has a very strong and high level of freedom of press. And they also do have a very strong democracy. It's a full democracy. So some countries that don't have freedom of press, a really good example is North Korea. The North Korean government censors and controls every media outlet that is consumed by the North Korean citizens. And this is not good because the citizens are not informed. They are just being told stuff and they are forced to believe it. And they are also a good example of a dictatorship. They are not a democracy. They are a dictatorship. The citizens do not have religious freedoms. They don't have a lot of freedoms, actually. They can't even leave the country. And they are being controlled by the government, and the government is telling them what to do and how to do it. And so with that information that we've covered, with just starting with basic ideas of freedom of press and then going into some real world examples, let's bring all the ideas together. So today we looked at the meaning of freedom of press, and we also looked at well-functioning societies that have freedom of press, but also some societies and functioning societies that don't have good freedom of press, and they are not thriving. So I just want you guys, the next time you watch a news report and read an article, remember that you have truthful information every time. I just want you to remember that you have truthful information every time you consume media. Bingo.